How do you respond to the comments that 300 million is, or 300 million or 400 million is not nearly enough to kind of kickstart Christchurch and its regeneration?
Well, that's the Crown contribution. So what we're doing, and I think one of the most important things about that sum of money that we've announced is that it is a facility that's been set up for making decisions on the ground in Christchurch in concert with Christchurch City. So I think the mechanism is just as important as the quantum of money that's there. And actually 300 million isn't all we've put aside for Christchurch. We've also said that we would underwrite the East Frame, that would be part of our Kiwi Build project, so that there's money there for housing. We've also said that we will invest in our people. We're not going to let the primary school kids suffer in the way they currently are in this city. At the moment, we know every indicator from parents to principals to teachers telling us about the developmental delays that we're seeing in our primary school aged kids. We're seeing kids starting school not with the reading level that would be expected, who are still bedwetting, all those kind of things. And currently there are 7 full-time staff funded across 136 schools in Canterbury to give additional support to those kids who have gone through trauma in the last 7 years. And we've said we'd invest in that we'd put another 80 teachers and 80 mental health professionals and allied professions into schools to help those kids. So that's just as important.
So is that 80 across the whole of Christchurch?
Yeah, additional. Christchurch and Kaikoura.
Is that primary and secondary
No,
schools?
that's just primary.
Just primary schools.
Because Labour also has a policy nationwide to put mental health nurses into every secondary school. But what we see here in Christchurch is there's a real gap with our primary kids, who are the ones that are really suffering. That, you know, a lot of these children weren't even born at the time of the first earthquake, but the kind of environment that they've grown up in over the last 7 years has taken their toll. And I don't want us to look back in 20 years and say, there's that cohort. We can see all kinds of bad things that have happened to them along the way, if only we'd invested up front. So that's what Labour will do.
So other things in Christchurch, so what's your personal feeling about the stadium?
Well, I think that actually it needs to be a decision made here in Christchurch. It's why we didn't come down, and Jacinda didn't come down and say, here's X amount of eye-watering amounts of cash to put into a stadium. She said, here's a fund. And actually it's up to Christchurch to set the priorities around how that's spent.
But we're going to build a stadium at some point, aren't we?
We need a stadium.
Just do it?
We need a stadium, and it gets more expensive the longer we delay it. But in terms of what that finally looks like and how much money is allocated to it is not something that central government should be deciding. It shouldn't be checkbook politics at an election where central government dictates what the shape of that stadium is going to be with its contribution. We've said, here's a fund. Christchurch, you set your priorities and make decisions, because we've got a lot of competing priorities.
What about the future of rail in Christchurch? Do you see a future for public transport and rail?
Absolutely, and Labour has committed $100 million for commuter rail from Rolleston in the first instance into the city. And then, of course, we need to look at the north. The reason why we've gone with Rolleston first, rather than with the north to Rangiora, is because there is an additional bus lane being put, or high transit lane being put on the Waimak Bridge. So that gives us a wee bit of breathing room, but we certainly have to have a plan for doing that as well. Again, we've got to have a vision, and we've got to make sure that we're planning for a 21st century city.